Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto thee, unto us, and to all your beloved children everywhere. Hari Om Tat Sat. Dearly beloved, make it so. So welcome everyone and namaste. This is our Tuesday evening reading of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Our beloved reader is Haima. She'll tell you where we are in the book, and she will begin.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Good evening and namaste, everybody. We are on page 110, the last Thursday, August 24th, 1882. That's where I will be starting to connect better. This is on PDF. And the topic would be next after a couple of lines. It's spiritual disciplines necessary at the beginning. So I would be connecting to those two. Thursday, August 24th, 1882. Sri Ramakrishna was talking to Hazra on the long northeast veranda of his room when M arrived. He saluted the master reverently. The topic would be spiritual disciplines necessary at the beginning. Master, I should like to visit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar a few times more. The painter first draws the general outlines and then puts in the details and colors at his leisure. The molder first makes the image out of clay, then plasters it, then gives it a coat of whitewash, and last of all, paints it with a brush. All these steps must be taken successively. Vidyasagar is fully ready, but his inner stuff is covered with a thin layer. He is now engaged in doing good works, but he doesn't know what is within himself. Gold is hidden within him. God dwells within us. If one knows that, one feels like giving up all activities and praying to God with a yearning soul. So the master talked with M, now standing, now pacing up and down the long veranda. Master, a little spiritual discipline is necessary in order to know what lies within. M, is it necessary to practice discipline all through life? Master, no, but one must be up and doing in the beginning. After that, one need not work hard. The helmsman stands up and clutches the rudder firmly as long as the boat is passing through waves, storms, high wind, or around the curves of a river. But he relaxes after steering through them. As soon as the boat passes the curves and the helmsman feels a favorable wind, he sits comfortably and just touches the rudder. Next, he prepares to unfurl the sail and gets ready for a smoke. Likewise, the aspirant enjoys peace and calm after passing the waves and storms of woman and gold. That is the end of that particular topic. We will next be reading Woman and Gold is the Obstruction to Yoga. Any comments, Brother Shankara, before I continue this?
Just the very clear indication from the Master that we must be up and doing in the beginning. We cannot say, well, I'll just wait till I get older. No, we have to, wherever we are, whenever we feel the touch of grace and the yearning that comes from that, then we need to be up and doing. Then later we can relax and feel comfortable like the helmsman. And metaphorically speaking, we can prepare a smoke. Whatever it is that relaxes us and lets us, settle back and just steer the boat gently. That's all that will be required. And those of us who've been in the life for many decades can attest that this is all true.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that there's never another storm. It doesn't mean that there's never another trial. But by and large, everything has been resolved. And even in the face of challenges and trials, you're not so disconcerted and troubled as you would have been in the early days, or actually were in the early days. Anything else from anyone about any of this? All right, dear, move on.
Next topic, Woman and Gold is the obstruction to yoga. Some are born with the characteristics of the yogi, but they too should be careful. It is woman and gold alone that is the obstacle. It makes them deviate from the path of yoga and drags them into worldliness. Perhaps they have some desire for enjoyment. After fulfilling their desire, they again direct their minds to God and thus recover their former state of mind, fit for the practice of yoga. Have you ever seen the spring trap for fish called the Sakta Call? No, sir, I haven't seen it. Master, they use it in our part of the country. One end of a bamboo pole is fastened in the ground, and the other is bent over with a catch. From this end, a line with a hook hangs over the water, with the bait tied to the hook. When the fish swallows the bait, suddenly the bamboo jumps up and regains its upright position. Again, take a pair of scales, for example. If a weight is placed on one side, the lower needle moves away from the upper one. The lower needle is the mind and the upper one, God. The meeting of the two is yoga. Unless the mind becomes steady, there cannot be yoga. It is the wind of worldliness that always disturbs the mind, which may be likened to a candle flame. If that flame doesn't move at all, then one is said to have attained yoga. Woman and gold alone is the obstacle to yoga. Always analyze what you see. What is there in the body of a woman? Only such things as blood, flesh, fat, entrails, and the like. Why should one love such a body? Sometimes I used to assume a rajasic mood in order to practice renunciation. Once I had the desire to put on a gold embroidered robe, wear a ring on my finger, and smoke a hubble bubble with a long pipe. Madhur Babu procured all these things for me. I wore the gold embroidered robe and said to myself after a while, mind, this is what is called a gold embroidered robe. Then I took it off and threw it away. I couldn't stand the robe anymore. Again, I said to myself, mind, this is called a shawl, and this is a ring, and this a ring, and this smoking a hubble bubble with a long pipe. I threw those things away once for all, and the desire to enjoy them never arose in my mind again.
Notice how careful he was to be aware of what his desires were, assure that they were fulfilled, and then each one he renounced completely. He never wanted to wear a gold embroidered robe or a shawl again. He never wanted to smoke a hubble bubble again, although he did smoke a hubble bubble from time to time. It was because it was brought into his presence, and he, along with others, smoked the hubble bubble. But he didn't desire it or ask for it. So it's important for us to be attentive in this way. What is it that we want? Then satisfy that desire, as long as it's not an really inauspicious desire. Satisfy that desire, and then we're able to say, well, I thought this is something I would like, but it's really not that important. And you can really set it aside or let it go at that point. This is such a key point that the master is making about how careful he is to isolate each one of these desires, fulfill it, and then renounce it. Any comment at all about what was read or what was said? Okay, dear.
Okay.
Please go on.
It was almost dusk. The master and M stood talking alone near the door on the southeast veranda. Master to M, the mind of the yogi is always fixed on God, always absorbed in the self. You can recognize such a man by merely looking at him. His eyes are wide open, with an aimless look, like the eyes of the mother bird hatching her eggs. Her entire mind is fixed on the eggs, and there is a vacant look in her eyes. Can you show me such a picture? M, I shall try to get one. As evening came on, the temples were lighted up. Sri Ramakrishna was seated on his small couch, meditating on the Divine Mother. Then he chanted the names of God. Incense was burnt in the room where an oil lamp had been lighted. Sounds of conch shells and gongs came floating on the air as the evening worship began in the temple of Kali. The light of the moon flooded all the quarters. The master again spoke to him. The topic is God and worldly duties. Master, perform your duties in an unselfish spirit. The work that Vidyasagar is engaged in is very good. Always try to perform your duties without desiring any result. M. Yes, sir, but may I know if one can realize God while performing one's duties? Can Rama and desire coexist? The other day, I read in a Hindi couplet, where Rama is, there desire cannot be. Where desire is, there Rama cannot be. Master, all without exception perform work, even to chant the name and glories of God. M. Sir, may I make an effort to earn more money? Master, it is permissible to do so to maintain a religious family. You may try to increase your income, but in an honest way. The goal of life is not the earning of money, but the service of God. Money is not harmful if it is devoted to the service of God. M. How long should a man feel obliged to do his duty toward his wife and children? Master, as long as they feel pinched for food and clothing. But one need not take the responsibility of a son when he is able to support himself. When the young fledgling learns to pick its own food, its mother pecks it if it comes to her for food. M. How long must one do one's duty? Master, the blossom drops off when the fruit appears. One doesn't have to do one's duty after the attainment of God, nor does one feel like doing it then. If a drunkard takes too much liquor, he cannot retain consciousness. If he takes only 2 or 3 glasses, he can go on with his work. As you advance nearer and nearer to God, He will reduce your activities little by little. Have no fear. Finish the duties you have at hand, and then you will have peace. When the mistress of the house goes to bed after finishing her cooking and other household duties, she won't come back, however you may shout after her. The next topic, different groups of devotees.
Hang on just a moment.
Sure.
Anything at all about anything that was read that would stir a comment from your own wisdom or experience, or give rise to a concern or a question? Anything at all about what was just read? That was quite a mouthful.
This is a good metaphor, Brother Shankara. If a drunkard takes too much liquor, he cannot retain consciousness. If he takes only 2 or 3 glasses, he can go on with his work. As you advance nearer and nearer to God, He will reduce your activities little by little. Have no fear. And that's very true.
Yes.
I totally agree with that. It takes time for that, but it can be achieved.
Yeah. And as long as we need to do our duties, we can.
Exactly.
Drunk on the experience of God.
Yes.
We just have to have 2 or 3 glasses, as the master says.
That's right.
So that we keep our wits about us and are able to go on with our duties.
With our regular worldly duties.
The blossom drops off and then the fruit is beginning to ripen. Then there's no holding you back. But this is some time coming. The fruit of spiritual realization ripens, as Swami Sri Ramakrishna says, slowly and slowly, my dears. So we mustn't be impatient. We must live in the expectation that at any moment realization may come, but we don't know what that moment is. So there's no sense being impatient about it. Anything else from anyone? Okay, dear, please move on.
The topic, next one, is different groups of devotees. M. Sir, what is the meaning of the realization of God? What do you mean by God vision? How does one attain it? Master, according to the Vaishnavas, the aspirants and the seers of God may be divided into different groups. These are the Pravartaka, the Sadhaka, the Siddha, and the Siddha of the Siddha. He who has just set foot on the path may be called a Pravartaka. He may be called a Sadhaka who has for some time been practicing spiritual disciplines such as worship, japa, meditation, and the chanting of God's name and glories. He may be called a Siddha who has known from his inner experience that God exists. An analogy is given in the Vedanta to explain this. The master of the house is asleep in a dark room. Someone is groping in the darkness to find him. He touches the couch and says, "No, it is not he." He touches the window and says, "No, it's not he." He touches the door and says, "No, it's not he." This is known in the Vedanta as the process of neti neti. Not this, not this. At last, his hand touches the master's body and he exclaims, "Here he is." In other words, he is now conscious of the existence of the master. He has found him, but he doesn't yet know him intimately. There is another type known as the Siddha of the Siddha, the supremely perfect. It is quite a different thing when one talks to the master intimately, when one knows God very intimately through love and devotion. A Siddha has undoubtedly attained God, but the supremely perfect has known God very intimately. That's the end of the topic. Any comments, purport, Brother Shankar, from you?
Well, what to add to that?
So clear, yes.
Let's just keep it clearly in mind that there is this way the master characterizes it as a four-step process. The beginner, the practitioner, the perfected, and then the supremely perfect. And this is the destiny for each of us, as Swami Vivekananda points out in Christ the Messenger. Each of us is destined for this perfection. It doesn't matter whether we wish it or not at any given moment. We're moving that direction. Slowly and slowly, very slowly if we're not participating in spiritual disciplines, in a more accelerated way if we are. And so this is for what to keep in mind. We're a beginner, then we're a practitioner, then we have, through our practice, we have an experience of the divine, and it does come. Then as time goes on, that experience becomes more and more continuous until that is your abode. You have the abode, as is said in the Om Sato prayer, of silence, serenity, clarity, and peace. So anything else from anyone? Any comments or questions? Okay, dear, please move on.
The topic now is different moods of aspirants. But in order to realize God, one must assume one of these attitudes. Santa, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, or Madhur. Santa, the serene attitude. The rishis of olden times had this attitude toward God. They did not desire any worldly enjoyment. It is like the single-minded devotion of a wife to her husband. She knows that her husband is the embodiment of beauty and love, a veritable madan. Dasya, the attitude of a servant toward his master. Hanuman had this attitude toward Rama. He felt the strength of a lion when he worked for Rama. A wife feels this mood also. She serves her husband with all her heart and soul. A mother also has a little of this attitude, as Yashoda had toward Krishna. Sakhya, the attitude of friendship. Friends say to one another, Come here and sit near me. Sri Rama and other friends sometimes fed Krishna with fruit, part of which they had already eaten, and sometimes climbed on his shoulders. Vatsalya, the attitude of a mother toward her child. This was Yashoda's attitude toward Krishna. The wife too has a little of this. She feeds her husband with her very lifeblood, as it were. The mother feels happy only when the child has eaten to his heart's content. Yashoda would roam about with butter in her hand in order to feed Krishna. Mother, the attitude of a woman toward her paramour. Radha had this attitude toward Krishna. The wife also feels it for her husband. This attitude includes all the other four. M. When one sees God, does one see him with these eyes? Master, God cannot be seen with these physical eyes. In the course of spiritual discipline, one gets a love body endowed with love eyes, love ears, and so on. One sees God with those love eyes. One hears the voice of God with those love ears. One even gets a sexual organ made of love. At these words, M burst out laughing. The master continued unannoyed. With this love body, the soul communes with God. M again became serious. Next is seeing God everywhere. Master, but this is not possible without intense love of God. One sees nothing but God everywhere when one loves him with great intensity. It is like a person with jaundice who sees everything yellow. Then one feels, I am verily he. A drunkard deeply intoxicated says, verily I am Kali. The gopis, intoxicated with love, exclaimed, verily I am Krishna. One who thinks of God day and night beholds him everywhere. It is like a man's seeing flames on all sides after he has gazed fixedly at one flame for some time. But that isn't the real flame, flashed through M's mind. Sri Ramakrishna, who could read a man's inmost thought, said, one doesn't lose consciousness by thinking of him who is all spirit, all consciousness. Shivanath once remarked that too much thinking about God confounds the brain. Thereupon I said to him, how can one become unconscious by thinking of consciousness? M. Yes, sir, I realize that. It isn't like thinking of an unreal object. How can a man lose his intelligence if he always fixes his mind on him, whose very nature is eternal intelligence? Master.
Please
Sure.
read that again.
Yes.
This
Okay.
this again is one of these key points that is almost like a throwaway. So read that again. That is so important.
Okay. Sri Ramakrishna, who could read a man's inmost thoughts, said, one doesn't lose consciousness by thinking of him who is all spirit, all consciousness. Shivanath once remarked that too much thinking about God confounds the brain. Thereupon I said to him, how can one become unconscious by thinking of consciousness? Yes, sir, I realize that. It isn't like thinking of an unreal object. How can a man lose his intelligence if he always fixes his mind on him, whose very nature is eternal intelligence?
There it is. There it is. if we just keep urging our mind in that direction. Ultimately, there is a merging. We're no longer thinking about something. The thinking and the being are one and the same thing. This is what's meant by how can you lose consciousness by thinking about one whose nature is eternal intelligence, eternal consciousness. Anything else from anyone? Any questions or comments? All right, dear, please read on.
Master, with pleasure. It is through God's grace that you understand that. The doubts of the mind will not disappear without His grace. Doubts do not disappear without self-realization. But one need not fear anything if one has received the grace of God. It is rather easy for a child to stumble if he holds his father's hand, but there can be no such fear if the father holds the child's hand. A man does not have to suffer.
This will be the
Yes.
subject of this coming Sunday's talk.
Yeah. And we also talked last Sunday too, Brother Shankara, doubt and fear.
Oh, yes.
Wasn't that the topic? And Balakrishna ji also mentioned that if the father holds the child's hand,
yes,
there will not be any fear. So, which is exactly the same paragraph.
Yeah, the title of the talk is when Mother takes your offered hand.
Mm-hmm. A man does not have to suffer anymore if God, in His grace, removes his doubts and reveals Himself to him. But this grace descends upon him only after he has prayed to God with the intense yearning of heart and practiced spiritual discipline. The mother feels compassion for her child when she sees him running about breathlessly. She's been hiding herself. Now she appears before the child. But why should God make us run about? Thought Yam. Immediately Sri Ramakrishna said, it is His will that we should run about a little. Then it is great fun. God has created the world in play, as it were. This is called Mahamaya, the great illusion. Therefore, one must take refuge in the Divine Mother, the cosmic power itself.
Okay, read that again from
Yes, I
will.
Immediately, well, but why should God make us run about? Thought Yam. Immediately, Sri Ramakrishna said, it is His will that we should run about a little. Then it is great fun. God has created the world in play, as it were. This is called Mahamaya, the great illusion. Therefore, one must take refuge in the Divine Mother, the cosmic power itself. It is she who has bound us with the shackles of illusion. The realization of God is possible only when those shackles are severed. Severed, sorry. Only when those shackles are severed. That's the end of that topic. Any comments, questions? Purport?
Well, once again, the Master has just made it plain that it is that what we experience is not accidental. This mad world of which we are a part is done in play. And in other places, he says, even in a drunken, mother drinking the wine of spiritual bliss becomes a kind of drunken mother. And so things are incoherent and discontinuous and Mahamaya. It's her intention that we should run about a little. Nothing to wonder at, though sometimes it can be difficult. The running about, this is why we have to hold to our parents' hand so that we don't stumble and fall. We have to maintain that relationship, that intimate relationship of child to parent, and extend our hand and say to the divine presence, take my hand. And when that's done, then there can be no real falling. There may be a kind of stumble, but the divine parent will hold you upright and not let you fall and skin your knees or bloody your nose. Anything else from anyone about any of that?
Brother Shankara, this is Sunil. What we just read, actually, it made me remember Paramhans Yoganand's book I read a couple of months back, Man's Eternal Quest. He talked exactly same things, different words, that, God plays with you. You need to have the deepest love from your heart in order for you to see him. And you should be persistent about your request, and you should be just like a child, not like begging. You should be demanding it, because God, you are the children of God. You are a child of God. So you should be demanding from the bottom of your heart.
Precisely. Sri Ramakrishna calls this tamasic bhakti. What you say to the mother? What, am I your 8-month child? Am I your premature weakling? No, I am your child. Help me stand up strong and move forward. And as you said, do not be afraid to demand. You are a child of the divine, not some stranger here. As Holy Mother said, the whole world is your own. No one is a stranger, my child. The whole world is your own. And so we should take these great teachers seriously when they say these things. And thank you for relating that to us. It's right on, exactly. Do not be afraid to assert your relationship with the divine. You did not create yourself. You did not choose yourself for this path. All of this is the grace of human birth, the grace of yearning to be free, the grace of these great teachers, including the Sri Ramakrishna, whose book we are reading. These are the 3 graces. Anything else? Thank you for mentioning that book. What was the title?
It is called Man's Eternal Quest. So, yeah, it is written by Sri Paramhans Yoganandji. So after I read his autobiography of a yogi, then I got so interested in his writings. His writings are, to me, it is more of a bhakti yoga. So it really tries to connect me to the God by totally devoting myself.
It's interesting that the first name of the Vedanta Center of Atlanta, the Swami Yogeshananda gave the name to the corporation that is the founding corporation of our center. And the title is, the name of that is The Eternal Quest. And it was only when they moved to Tucker that they changed the name to Vedanta center of Atlanta. So we are the eternal quest, and our center embodies that. Thank you. Anything else from anyone? All right, dear, let's read on.
Next, worship of the Divine Mother. The Master continued, one must propitiate the Divine Mother, the primal energy, in order to obtain God's grace. God himself is Mahamaya, who deludes the world with her illusion and conjures up the magic of creation, preservation, and destruction. She has spread this veil of ignorance before our eyes. We can go into the inner chamber only when she lets us pass through the door. Living outside, we see only outer objects, but not that eternal being, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. Therefore, it is stated in the Purana that deities like Brahma praised Mahamaya for the destruction of the demons Madhu and Kaitaba. Shakti alone is the root of the universe.
That what's being referred to there, by the way, is the stories told in the Devi Mahatmya
Yes.
or the Chandi.
Chandi.
This is just a passing reference to that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to know what's meant by worship and propitiation of the Divine Mother, it is worth your time to read the 700 verses of the Devi Mahatmyam or the Chandi. It is really a remarkable work of instruction on our relationship with the Divine Mother that the Master gives this passing reference to. So read that again, please, dear, so we have it.
Yes. One must propitiate the Divine Mother, the primal energy, in order to obtain God's grace. God himself is Mahamaya, who deludes the world with her illusion and conjures up the magic of creation, preservation, and destruction. She has spread this veil of ignorance before our eyes. We can go into the inner chamber only when she lets us pass through the door. Living outside, we see only outer objects, but not that eternal being, existence, knowledge, bliss absolute. Therefore, it is stated in the Purana that deities like Brahma praised Mahamaya for the destruction of the demons Madhu and Kaitaba. And this is still happening right now as we speak, Brother Shankara.
Oh, yes.
Creation, preservation, destruction. And this Madhu and Kaitabas, yes, they are there in different forms.
Oh, yes,
So I know Kali is there to demolish that evilness. I have strong faith in that, Kali.
Well, one of the things that we need to keep so firmly in mind,
Yes,
this is where the Chandi is so
exactly.
explicit, is that this Madhu and Kaitaba are her children as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And it says in the Chandi, you direct your weapons against them, so that even the inimical ones, purified by the missiles, attain the higher worlds. And so it isn't as if this destruction is anything more than the same kind of transformation we go through. It is rougher for those of that demonic nature. No two ways about it. It is a rough road to hoe. And we see people in this world
Right now.
who are of a demonic nature, who are going through terrible things. But there's absolutely nothing for us to do about it other than pray for them, and to the extent that we can, sustain and comfort anyone who's within our reach. But this propitiation of the Divine Mother and our understanding of our relationship with her is a very profound business.
Mhm.
And so I encourage everyone to read the Devi Mahatmya.
Devi Mahatmya,
We
yes.
carry copies of it in the bookshop. And of course, it's easily available online. You know, you can get it from Vedanta.com or from Google or Amazon or wherever you buy your books. Anything else from anyone? How are we doing for time?
We have about 13 minutes still.
Oh, good.
13 minutes, yes.
Very good. Okay. Plunge on.
Shakti alone is the root of the universe. That primal energy has two aspects, Vidya and Avidya. Avidya deludes. Avidya conjures up woman and gold, which casts the spell. Vidya begets devotion, kindness, wisdom, and love, which lead one to God. This avidya must be propitiated, and that is the purpose of the rites of Shakti worship. The devotee assumes various attitudes towards Shakti in order to propitiate her. The attitude of a handmaid, a hero, or a child. A hero's attitude is to please her, even as a man pleases a woman through intercourse. The worship of Shakti is extremely difficult. It is no joke. I passed 2 years as the handmaid and companion of the Divine Mother. But my natural attitude has always been that of a child towards his mother. I regard the breasts of any woman as those of my own mother. And that is the end of worship of the Divine Mother topic. We are moving on to Master's attitude toward women. Any comments, Brother Shankara?
I really want anyone who has any concerns about any of these.
Yeah, actually, brother, this is something that's puzzled me for a long time, this last statement here. About where it says that it says that a hero's attitude is to please her, even as a man pleases a woman through intercourse. Is this the surrendering the irreverent part of yourself to the mother?
If you remember some pages back, we heard about the Master say, and it actually brought an embarrassed laugh from him, that you get a love body. When you proceed in spiritual life, you get a love body. And you actually have what amounts to sexual intercourse with the divine. Now, this doesn't happen to everyone, but it does happen. And so the explicitness here is it's not an accident or some passing fancy.
You know, because when I read Mirabai, this is what I think of.
Well, precisely.
Yes.
And, you know, before I came into Vedanta, I always had this debate with myself because I was trying to figure out, is this irreverent part of the self, is it impurity or is it just surrendering to the infinity, that God is both reverent and irreverent, and we both have those sides to us. And if you're going to surrender, you have to surrender that part of yourself and accept it too.
Precisely, brother. Precisely. Now, as I say, it's not for everyone. Some people just cannot bring themselves to think this way, and that's fine. That's
I
fine.
guess it was just Christian guilt, from the way I was raised and the image of God that I was given growing up made me feel like it was a very, I was doubting the,
Yes,
that was that an appropriate relationship.
yeah. And the great mystic and writer John O'Donohue, in his book Anamkara, Soul Friend, brings it very clear how mistaken this Christian aversion to and avoidance of the sensual. As you said, we accept that along with everything else.
So I kind of worked it out to me in my own self that it's really, once you accept it, it's kind of like the salt doll measuring the depth of the ocean. Once you overcome it, you just dissolve. It just dissolves. I don't know really how to express it, but
No, that was very nicely said. That choice of the master's metaphor of the salt doll is a very good one. The more we try to measure, the more we dissolve into it, the more intently we focus, the more the lines around our small self blur and ultimately disappear. We dissolve into the divinity. Now, as you said, words cannot express what happens. We gesture at it with those words I just used and words that the master uses and so on. But the more we try to pretend that that side does not exist, the more difficulty we create for ourselves. Whether we decide or are given the ability to cooperate with any of it, that's another matter. But we must not deny it, because if we deny it, we're simply storing up trouble for ourselves. Because as you just pointed out, there will be the denial is an automatic source of distraction and confusion.
so with monastic orders and nuns, in some of them I know that does this actually replace their like worldly lust, you might say, or their worldly desire, and it becomes this, and that's all they care about?
Well, among the Catholic nuns, there are orders that actually wear wedding rings.
Mm-hmm. That say they're the brides of Christ.
Yeah, and they mean that in the fullest sense. They literally have sexual relations with Christ, and some of them describe it in their poetry. Saint Teresa of Avila, for example. And as you pointed out, Mirabai. Mirabai is people try to say that Mirabai doesn't mean what she says. Well, she certainly does.
As the thing is in my experience and all my intuitions say what we're saying, but I guess just being raised the way I was raised, it causes I have to get over the those ideas that I was raised with.
Every one of us who was raised in the Christian tradition where this denial is there had to go through that. Yes. And well and good. Anything else from anyone?
Well, it's really reassuring to know that you can let go and have that freedom, and in that because before it's like you're trying to artificially limit the limitless.
Yes, exactly. And the more you try to do that, the more it insists on itself. Anything else from anyone? This is a difficult topic, I know.
I have to say, like being born and brought up as Hindu, even I'm having tough time to even listen to that. So I don't know about others, but it is not just the Christian thing. It
Yes,
is
that's right.
even for me, means it is very tough to accept that. And I think to me, Mirabai is probably an exception because she and Lord Krishna, they became one, right? So that is a totally different part versus me as a normal human being. I cannot compare or relate to that feeling what Mirabai would have that.
Well, as I said, dear, it's not for everyone, and it's not like there's something wrong, anything at all wrong, if you feel like there's no way that you can be cooperative with this. Just don't deny it. Just don't deny the truth of it, because the master says it very explicitly. And so we're seeing it here. And we see it in the Chandi. She's described as the all-pervading Devi, who constantly presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. Now, if you constantly preside over the senses of all beings and govern all the elements, you are indeed going to be involved in what we've been talking about. The senses go that direction. So, like I say, there's no compulsion, never, ever any compulsion. No should, no must. But there is the invitation not to deny this simply because it does exist and is another way of being unlimited rather than limited. And thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for saying what you said. And of course, it's not for everyone. Nothing of this is for everyone, except the fact that there is this fundamental relationship of the child to the divine parent. That is primal and
I look at it a little differently, because our teachings also says that we have to practice brahmacharya. So with that in mind, if something like this, if a person has to reach to the highest level where there is no difference between the man and female. I mean, this is what Sri Ramakrishna is talking about here. That is why he said, even the practice of Shakti, thing is very difficult.
yes, it's all, none of this is easy. But Balakrishna, there is no compulsion to brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is for monastics. For householders, the legitimate satisfaction of sexual desire is perfectly all right. Otherwise, how could there be any children?
Plus, you had to realize, to me, we're talking about pure bhakti to me, because it's not about male or female. It's about union with the other.
Exactly, yes.
And being so close, but still being that slightest bit of separation to where you're two.
Yes.
To become the ecstasy of the two to become one or know each other as one.
Well, this is exactly what Balakrishna was talking about with Radha and Krishna, or Mirabai and Krishna, or someone brought that up. This is this embodiment actually was an avatar in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's who it was. Krishna and Radha, born as one being. So, but the mystery of this is so great that we must accept it as such. As was said, the worship of Shakti is there are very few who can do it. Anything else from anyone? And thank you, Bob.
I would just say, if you ever want to hear, to me, that perfectly captured in music, if you listen to Anushka Shankar's Ancient Love, that song to me just captures it.
Yeah. The Song of Solomon also captures it.
Brother Shankara, I'll stop right here. Time is up. So
Okay.
we'll proceed next week.
All right, dear.
Next topic.
Any final thoughts from anyone?
Well, I would say that, it's quite reassuring and a relief to, have more validation on that coming from, the way I was raised.
Yes, it is. All right. Well, Feliz Navidad y Prospero Año Nuevo y Felicidad. Spanish,
Feliz Navidad.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and all the joys of the season.
Thank you.
So may that be our experience. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may we go forward knowing that the Mother, Father being, the divine being that is introduced in the prayer that we use to start these sessions, holds us in a loving and protective embrace. So may we go forward into our Christmas season with that idea in mind. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you all. And may we all be well and in bright spirits. Such a joy.
Thank you all for the satsang.
All right, dears.
Thank you, Aimaji, for the.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you tomorrow, Brother Shankara.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow.
And good night.